Chapter 13 continues the discussion of the leading function of management. In this chapter, we will consider groups versus teams and the different teams that exist. We will talk about the characteristics of them and describe how teams or groups evolve and how managers can help to build and maintain effective teams, especially when conflict occurs. So during either our work career or education, at some point you will work with others in a group or team setting. Most have experienced the good and the bad, and what makes working with others effective and working with others is the cornerstone of future management. We just can't do things alone, and having the ability to work with others is wanted by employers, and how you work with others can affect your job opportunities and success. So is there a difference between a group and a team? Yes. A group is defined as two or more freely interacting individuals who share norms, share goals, and have a common identity. While a team is a small group of people with complementary skills who are committed to a common purpose, performance goals, and approach for which they hold themselves mutually accountable. There are several examples of how and why teamwork is important, from increased productivity to reduced costs. Teamwork is important not only for you, but for the overall of the organization. Groups can be either formal or informal. A formal group is a group assigned by organizations or its managers to accomplish specific goals. It may be a division, a department, a work group, or a committee. It may be permanent or temporary. In general, people are assigned to them according to their skills and the organization's requirements. An informal group is a group formed by people whose overriding purpose is getting together for friendship or a common interest. An informal group may be simply a collection of friends who hang out with one another, such as those who take coffee breaks together. Or it may be as organized as a prayer breakfast, a bowling team, a company alumni group, or any voluntary organization. What's important for you as a manager to know is that informal groups can advance or undercut the plans of formal groups. The formal organization may make efforts, say, to speed up the plan assembly line or to institute workplace reforms. But these attempts may be sabotaged through the informal networks of workers who meet and gossip over lunch pails and after-work beers. However, interestingly, informal groups can also be highly productive, even more so than formal groups. So there are various types of teams. Different types of teams have different characteristics. We can differentiate some typical teams according to their purpose, duration, and level of member commitment. We have work teams, and these have a clear purpose that all members share. They're usually permanent, and members give their complete commitment to their team's purpose in order for the team to succeed. We have project teams. They are assembled to solve a particular problem or complete a specific task, such as brainstorming new marketing ideas for the company's products. We have cross-functional teams, and this includes members from different areas within an organization, such as finance, operations, and sales. Then we have self-managed teams, and these are a group of workers who are given administrative oversight for their task domains. And then we also have virtual teams. These work together over time and distance via electronic media to combine efforts and achieve common goals. Given technological advances, virtual teams are growing in popularity. A recent survey reveals 66% of multinational companies rely on them. Yes, virtual teams are gaining in popularity, and they have several potential benefits, such as reduced real estate costs, reduced commuting and travel expenses, and we have a diverse knowledge across geography and time. But they also have potential disadvantages, and a few of those are the difficult to establish team cohesion, the ability to observe those nonverbal cues, and obviously virtual teams do not substitute that face-to-face contact. So managers have often talked about products and organizations going through stages of development, from birth to maturity to decline. Groups and teams go through the same thing. One theory proposes 5 stages of development, and that you see them here. They are forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Stage 1 is forming, and this is the process of getting oriented and getting acquainted with your members. Like basically asking the questions, why are we here? Or you're asking yourself, where do I fit in here? In this stage, leaders are focusing on giving people time to become acquainted and socialize. At this point, mutual trust is low, and there is a good deal of holding back to see who takes charge and how. Conflict at this stage may actually be beneficial, leading to increased creativity. At this juncture, if the formal leader, such as a class instructor or a supervisor, does not assert his or her authority, an emergent leader will eventually step in to fill the group's need for leadership and direction. During this stage, leaders should allow time for people to become acquainted and socialize. In stage 2, storming, it is characterized by the emergence of individuals' personalities and roles and conflicts within the group. Asking the question, what's my role here? Why are we fighting over who's in charge and who does what? In this stage, leaders should encourage members to suggest ideas, voice disagreements, and work through their conflicts about tasks and goals. This is a time of testing. Individuals test the leader's policies and assumptions as they try to determine how they fit into the power structure. Subgroups start to take shape, and subtle forms of rebellion, such as procrastination, occur. Many groups stall in stage 2 because power politics may erupt into open rebellion. This stage may be of short duration or painfully long, depending on the goal clarity and the commitment and maturity of the members. Stage 3 is the norming stage. Conflicts are resolved. Close relationships begin to develop, and unity and harmony emerge. What do the others expect me to do is a question. Can we agree on goals and work as a team? In this stage, leaders often should emphasize unity and help identify team goals and values. Groups that make it through stage 2 generally do so because a respected member other than the leader challenges the group to resolve its power struggles so something can be accomplished. Questions about authority are resolved through emotional, unemotional, matter-of-fact group discussion. A feeling of team spirit is experienced because members believe they have found their proper roles. This stage generally does not last long. Stage 4 is the performing. Members should concentrate on solving problems and completing the assigned tasks. How can I best perform my role? Can we do the job properly? In this stage, leaders should allow members the empowerment they need to work on tasks. For individuals, the question here is, how can I best perform my role? For the group or team, the issue is, can we do the job properly? During this stage, the leaders should allow the members the empowerment they need to work on tasks. The final stage, adjourning, is where members prepare for disbandment. What's next? Can we help team members transition out? Leaders can help ease a transition by rituals celebrating the end and new beginnings. Having worked so hard to get along and get something done, many members find a compelling sense of loss. The leader can help ease the transition by rituals celebrating the end and the beginnings, parties, award ceremonies, and such. The leader can emphasize valuable lessons learned in the group dynamics to prepare everyone for future group and team efforts. So let's take a look at this question. Jeff's work group is having a lot of disagreement over the direction the group should take. They are involved in the blank stage of group development. If you said B, storming, you are right. Storming is characterized by the emergence of individual personalities and roles and conflicts within the group. Building effective teams. What is a high-performance team? Current research and practice suggests 7 attributes which are shared leadership, shared accountability, sense of a common purpose, trust, open communication, clear role expectation, early conflict resolution, and collaboration. Thus, as a future manager, the first thing you have to realize is that building a high-performance team is going to require some work, but the payoff will be a stronger, better performing work unit. The most essential considerations in building a group into an effective team is collaboration, trust, performance goals and feedback, motivation through mutual accountability and interdependency, composition, roles, norms, and effective team processes. And we will discuss each one of these. So as you might expect, teams are more effective when members collaborate. Many factors can influence collaboration, including how teams are rewarded. Trust is defined as the reciprocal faith in others' attentions and behavior. The word reciprocal emphasizes the give and take aspect of trust. That is, we tend to give what we get. Trust begets trust. Distrust begets distrust. Trust is based on credibility. How believable you are based on your past acts of integrity and follow through on your promises. As you might expect, research supports a positive relationship between team members' trust and team performance. Collaboration is the act of sharing information and coordinating efforts to achieve a collective outcome. As an individual, you no doubt prefer to have measurable goals and to have feedback about your performance. The same is true with teams. Teams are not just collections of individuals. They are individuals organized for a collective purpose. That purpose needs to be defined in terms of specific, measurable goals with continual feedback to tell team members how well they are doing. An obvious example are the teams you see on television, like Indianapolis at the Daytona Beach during automobile racing, when the driver guides the race car off the track to make the pit stop, and the team quickly jacks up the car to change the tires, refuel the tank, clean the windshield, all of that in a matter of seconds. The performance goal is to have the car back on the track as quickly as possible. The number of seconds of elapsed time and the driver's place among competitors once back in the race tells a team how well they are doing. Being mutually accountable to other members of the team, rather than to a supervisor, makes members feel mutual trust and commitment, a key part in motivating members for team effort. Mutual accountability is fostered by having members share accountability for their work, authority over how goals are met, and discretion over resource use and the ownership of that information and knowledge related to work. Team member interdependence is the extent to which team members rely on common task-related team inputs and the amount of interpersonal interactions needed to complete the work. Team composition reflects the collection of jobs, personalities, values, knowledge, experience, and skills of team members. We know that teams perform better when members have a high tolerance for uncertainty, they possess high levels of emotional stability, and are diverse backgrounds. The most important idea to remember is team member composition should fit the responsibility of the team. Fit enhances effectiveness, and misfit impedes it. Team roles. Roles are socially determined expectations of how an individual should behave in a specific position. As a team member, you have a certain role in your team to reach the objectives and goals. There are two types of team roles. The first is a task role, and this consists of behavior that concentrates on getting team's tasks done. For example, the initiator, the information seeker, the opinion giver, the elaborator, coordinator, recorder, or evaluator. The second is maintenance roles. This consists of behavior that fosters constructive relationship among team members. For example, they are the encourager, the harmonizer, the compromiser, the standard setter, the follower. A task role or task-oriented role consists of behavior that concentrates on getting the team's tasks done. And a maintenance role or relationship-oriented role, such as the encourager, is maintaining unity and order to get the job done by the team. Question 2. Layla works during her meeting to pull together the ideas of her committee members into a coherent whole. Layla is performing what role? If you said C, task role, you're right. A task role involves concentrating on getting the team's tasks done. Team norm Norms. Norms are general guidelines or rules of behavior that most people or team groups follow. They point out boundaries on what is acceptable and not acceptable within the team or group. Norms tend to be reinforced by group or team members for 4 reasons. One is to help the group survive. Don't do anything that will hurt us. So, for an example, the manager of your team or group might compliment you because you've made sure that it has the right emergency equipment. Number 2, to clarify role expectations. You have to go along to get along. So, for example, at one time, new members of Congress wanted to buck the system by which important committee appointments were given to those with the most seniority, were advised to go along to get along. Go along with the rules in order to get along in their congressional careers. Number 3, to help individuals avoid embarrassing situations. Don't call attention to yourself. So, for example, you might be ridiculed by fellow team members for dominating the discussion during a report to top management. Be a team player, not a show-off. Or you might be told not to discuss religion or politics with customers whose views might differ from yours. And then finally, to emphasize the group's important values and identity. We're known for being special. An example of this would be Nordstrom's department store chain emphasizes the great lengths to which it goes for customer service, and some colleges give an annual award to the instructor whom students vote best teacher. Effective team processes. Team processes are members' independent acts that convert inputs to outputs through cognitive, verbal, and behavioral activities directed toward organizing task work to achieve collective goals. Just like you have a process to do something, teams need processes as well. 3 activities teams can use to improve processes are: 1, create a team charter. This outlines how a team will manage teamwork responsibility. It represents an agreement among members as to how the team will work as an empowered partnership in making binding decisions and sharing accountability for delivering quality products that meet customer needs. 2, engage in team flexibility, process in which team members collectively reflect on the team's objectives, strategies, and processes and adapt accordingly. This helps improve team performance. And 3, give team members a voice. Reflects the extent to which team members feel free to engage in the expression of constructive opinions, concerns, or ideas about work-related issues. Managing conflict. Conflict is simply a disagreement, a perfectly normal state of affairs. Conflicts may take many forms between individuals, between an individual and a group, between groups, within a group, between an organization and its environment. Although all of us might wish to live our lives free of conflict, it is now recognized that certain kinds of conflict can actually be beneficial. So let us therefore distinguish between dysfunctional conflict, which is bad, and functional conflict, which is good. So in attempting to think that a conflict-free work is a happy work group, as indeed it may be, but is it productive to the group? In the 1970s, social scientists specializing in organizational behavior introduced the involuntary idea that organizations could suffer from too little or too much conflict. Neither scenario is good. Thus, it seems that a moderate level of conflict can induce creativity and initiative, thereby raising performance as shown in this diagram. Too little conflict is known as indolence. Work groups, departments, organizations that experience too little conflict tend to be plagued by apathy, lack of creativity, indecision, and missed deadlines. The result is that organizational performance suffers. Too much conflict or warfare is excessive conflict. This excessive conflict, on the other hand, can erode organizational performance because of political fighting, dissatisfaction, lack of teamwork, and turnover. Workplace aggression and violence are manifestations of excessive conflict. We've all had confrontations, weak or strong, with people because we disagreed with them or disliked their personalities, such as their opinions, their behavior, etc. Such conflicts often begin with instances of workplace incivility or employees' lack of regard for each other, which, if not curtailed, can diminish job dissatisfaction and teamwork engagement. Unfortunately, personality conflicts are quite common. Recent research reports that 98% of employees reported experiencing some form of incivility, and 50% said they had been treated rudely at least once a week. The downside of collaboration, or the we feeling discussed earlier, is that we can translate into we versus them. This produces conflict among work groups, teams, and departments within an organization, such as inconsistent goals, unclear boundaries, and status differences. Personality conflicts are interpersonal opposition based on the personal dislike, disagreement, or differing styles. And these personality clashes could be a competition for source, scarce resources, time pressure, and communication failures. We also have intergroup conflicts, and this causes inconsistent goals, ambiguous jurisdictions. Boundaries are unclear, and status difference. And this is the we versus them. Then we have multicultural conflicts, in which we have frequent opportunities for clashes between cultures in a global economy. So how do you stimulate constructive conflict? As a manager, not only do you have to control conflict, you also want to cause some conflict. Now, this may sound odd, but starting constructive conflict results in the following: competition. Competition is, of course, a form of conflict, but competition is also often healthy in spurring people to produce higher results. Thus, a company will often put its salespeople in competition with another by offering bonuses and awards for achievement, for example, a trip to the Caribbean or for the top performer. Competition may also be established by making deliberate and highly publicized moves to change the corporate culture, by announcing to employees that the organization is now going to be more innovative and reward original thinking and unorthodox ideas. Without new blood, organizations can become inbred and resistant to change. That is why managers often bring outsiders, people from a different unit of the organization, new hires from competing companies or consultants. With their different backgrounds, attitude, and management styles, these outsiders can bring a new perspective and can shake things up. Performed conflict is designed to elicit different opinions without inciting people's personal feelings. There are two methods under program conflict: devil's advocacy, assigning someone to play the role of critic to voice possible objections to a proposal, and thereby generating critical thinking and reality testing; and the dialectic method, two people or groups play opposing roles in a debate in order to understand a proposal. So 5 basic behaviors to help you better handle conflict. Whatever kind of organization you work for, you'll always benefit from knowing how to manage conflict. And there are 5 basic behaviors that enable you to work on disagreements and keep them from flaring out of control into out of control personality conflicts. First one is openness. State your views openly and honestly. Equality. Treat others' status and ideas as equally to yours. Have empathy. Try to experience the other person's feelings and point of view. And supportiveness. Let the other person know you want to find a resolution that will benefit you. And finally, positiveness. Be positive about the person and your relationship. These 5 basic behaviors will help you understand and better handle conflict. So even if you're at the top of your game as a manager, working with groups and teams of people will now and then put you in the middle of disagreements, sometimes even destructive conflict. How do you deal with it? There are 5 conflict handling styles or techniques a manager can use for handling disagreements with individuals. Number 1 is avoiding. The benefit of this approach is that it buys time in unfolding an ambiguous situation. The weakness is that it provides only a temporary fix and sidesteps the underlying problem, thinking maybe that problem will go away. Obliging. The advantage of obliging is that it encourages cooperation. The weakness is that it's only temporary fix that fails to confront the underlying problem. It's basically saying, let's do it your way. Dominating or forcing. You have to do it my way. The advantage of the dominating is speed. It gets results quickly. The disadvantage is that in the end, it doesn't resolve personal conflict, if anything. It aggravates it by breeding hurt feelings and resentment. Or therefore is compromising. Let's split the difference. The benefit of the compromising is that it is a democratic process that seems to have no losers. However, since so many people approach compromise situations with a win-lose attitude, they may be disappointed and feel cheated. And then the last one is integrating. And this is basically saying, let's reach a win-win solution that benefits both of us. The strength of integrating is that it uses a problem-solving approach that has a longer-lasting impact because it deals with the underlying problem, not just its symptoms. Its weakness is that it's very time-consuming. Nevertheless, integrating is usually the best approach for dealing with groups and teams of people. This concludes Chapter 13.